Uh, as you can tell, I'm not in the shack, guys, but I got that to look at. But it's actually over there. Just in all fairness, that's actually kind of a green screen type thing going on. The beach is actually that way, and it's actually looking pretty ominous out there right now. I took that picture when I first got back to the room, but that's what it looks like out the balcony. Behind me is just a wall. But how are y'all today, guys?
Well, if I knew we were putting hotel pictures up as our backgrounds, I would have been prepared.
Well, I mean, I've got others. I mean, if this one, if anybody has a heart, any heartburn with this one, I mean, I can do others. I mean, look, I can look. There you go. How about that? Now we match,
Now,
bro.
now you just look like me.
Now we match. But yeah, I figured y'all would prefer to see that as opposed to the hang on that. Okay, that that just don't get it, guys. So I figured I'd be better off just give y'all something a background that everybody could kind of not have to look at the back of the room. And I am on a laptop. I hope everything works. I hope everybody can hear me. But
You're
if you can't, there's not really a whole lot I can do about it.
on a laptop on hotel Wi-Fi, which can either be really good or horrible.
Well, I mean, the laptop's good. Oh, sorry, guys. Y'all did not see that. Stand by.
Hey, Moose work all the way from Alaska coming in. Good to see you.
Congratulations, sir, on your making it to the live show tonight. Hello, Chris. How are you over there, fella? I thought I could have saw Chris across there, across that water a while ago. It may have been somebody else, but I'm pretty sure I saw Australia down there. Jack, can you not hear me? Can everybody else hear me?
If we're all quiet, maybe he'll just go away.
I know you can hear me.
Maybe I'm just good at reading lips.
Yeah, I'm talking. So, okay, I guess you can hear me now. I think Jack lost me for a minute. And guys, it could be the internet here. Like I said, I'm on motel internet, and it's not the best. But anyway, I'm gonna shut up for a minute.
Well, it's you're down there in the hot, humid Gulf. I'm up here in humid Minnesota, but at least it's cooled off and it's drying out a little bit. So I'm back out in the
Yeah.
garage here in the shop, not completely sweating it out. So
Well, that is good. So how are we coming? How are we coming on? Well, hello there, Kim. That's pretty close to where I would normally be in Calera there, up there around Mr. Todd, my buddy Todd Miso, who I got some news for some of you guys. And if any of you are from the area of Milton, Florida, I've got something really special for y'all. So, but how's the AC fund coming, Steve? I mean, everybody wants to know.
uh, well, I still have to get quotes on what it actually is going to cost me, and I'm bouncing between actually trying to work with contractors and also looking at just doing it myself. Um, well, doing it myself with some help. The college I work at does have an HVAC program, so as those faculty come back, I'm going to try to grease their wheels a little bit for some advice slash help and see where I can get with that. But it's not here yet. And honestly,
Yeah.
it, it's more about the humidity here in the summer because even on these hot days, my shop has not hit 80 yet here this summer, even though it's been near 100 outside. But the humidity rises in here and then it gets muggy. So I'm really interested in making sure I get a unit that does work well in northern climates because I'm more concerned about how well it performs in the winter. Because I know with a
Yeah.
little bit of cooling and a little bit of dehumidification, this area is going to be pretty nice. But I'd like it to work really well in winter as a heat pump as well. So that's
Yeah.
where
Well, see, Mine's right the opposite. If mine can keep up during the summer, it'll be fine during the wintertime because it doesn't get that hot or doesn't
Yeah.
get that cold. Now, I will say that all the work I did in there this week, I stopped up mine earlier, and right before I left home, uh, it stopped up the drain, and I had water leaking into the shop, so I had to fix that before I left. I got to clean it up real good when I get back, and I may even try to come up with some type of secondary filtration system to put on it because this weekend I could not keep it clean from all the dust and everything. So that's
Well,
going to be a concern that I'm going to have to address.
well, there's a couple videos you should watch
I've seen them.
from Jay Bates and yeah, Jay Bates
Glimpse,
and Glimpse Inside.
glimpse.
Yeah, they
Yeah, I
both
watched
kind
it.
of have worked on that box filter, and if I get one in here, I'm definitely putting one up there. So
Yeah, I thought I might have to do it when I first put it in, but I was like, it shouldn't be that often. I'd have to clean it, but it's looking like I'm going to clean it a lot more often than what I had thought. So I'm going to go ahead and rig something up when I get back.
yeah,
Well, Stuart, I'm trying to catch up on some of these comments here. Uh, Somebody's asking, have I gotten smarter staying at Holiday Inn Express? No, I think this is what is this? It's a Hampton. We're actually in a Hampton. The city's paying for this. This is a conference for work that I have to come to. So me and my chief, we have us a little room here at the Hampton that we're staying in, and we've got classes all week, and all the stuff that is so much fun to do. It's not nearly as fun as being in the shop, but anyway, it's got to be done. Uh, Somebody's asking if I remember when I used to cut up an image to reduce white space. Yes, I do that frequently. I did a video or two on it, but yes, I do that. I have to do that a lot. I'm having to learn how to do that on multiple occasions. Stuart, well, I appreciate you staying up in the UK. You could probably get up with Chris over there. Chris just got out of bed, so you're staying up late, and Chris just got out of bed over in Australia. That's pretty cool. Um, Burning of hair goes. Yeah, I'll tell you a little cheat that you can do to on stuff like that. If you want to break it up into pieces, you can actually take and use the Boolean features, duplicate some things, and use the Boolean to chop them up and basically leave those pieces laying without moving them. And you could chop that stuff up really quick and put it in different layers. So you could have the left side of the post one layer, the right side the other another layer, and then the bottom leg another layer. But I would probably need to do a video or get Steve to do a video on that. But you can do it with the Boolean feature and not have to node edit or anything like that if you really want to like shortcut it. Big Scooby wants to know if you're thinking full AC or mini split. You're still leaning toward mini split right now, aren't you?
yeah, I'm looking at a mini split, the heat pump style that's going to both cool and heat. Because yeah, like I say, I don't need to cool it that much. I need to dehumidify it and add a little bit of cooling in here because it's fairly well insulated. It's partially shaded, so but
Yeah.
it gets just sticky in here, which even in the mid 70s gets quite uncomfortable, especially for this northern boy. But
Yeah.
yeah, in the winter, that's where I'm also leaning towards it. It's going to save me money even if I have to augment it a few times in the deep winter with extra heaters. But in
Yeah. Well, that was
general,
my thing. That was my thing too. Is if I have to, if we have any like real cold snaps in the winter, which I mean, I'm not against wearing my hoodies in the shop. As long as if I can keep it 50 to 60 in the shop, I'm good. I don't have the blistering cold that you have, but anyway. Josh, no, I haven't put out a video yet on the exact way that I hooked it up. And reason being, I wanted to make sure there was some back and forth on the internet about the relay system and how you had to mount it and whether or not it would overheat and all that. There were some mixed reviews on the setup, and so I wanted to run it for a little while before I went to really getting into the weeds on how I did it to make sure that the way I did it didn't overheat. So I do have that on my agenda to do. Is kind of just go back and take the cover off and just kind of show the wiring and stuff like that. But I wanted to run it for a little while and just make sure because I had never used this particular relay before. And I, one, wasn't sure that it was going to even activate. And then two, I was a little concerned that it could possibly, the relay could get too hot. But I've been monitoring the fixture box that I've got it in is staying cool. I haven't had any problems with overheating. and no issues with it cutting on and off or nothing. I have watched some of Sam Craft's stuff. Uh, I use a dust filtration system by Win, but I'm trying to build an inlet box for my mini splits. What I'm looking at getting into.
Yeah, Sam Crafts, he does some pretty good stuff. I like the fact that he runs his business and shares a lot of that as well. So it's kind of he's one of those guys like you, definitely doing it in not just someone tinkering with machines in their workshop, but they use them,
Yeah.
put them to use, and he's got some good tips
Oh
there.
yeah.
And he's called it out a few times, like, hey, this needs to be fixed this way and such. So I definitely
Yeah.
appreciate his content and such.
Well, hello there, barbecue bullets and big rigs. Wonder where in the world you at today? Are you traveling today? Offset field, yeah, offset fields. Those all have their own unique uses, but never get wrapped around the axle as flood fill or offset fill always being the correct answer because there are situations that those can actually cause the burn times to be longer. It's not a bad idea if you have a really big design to try the different things and then do the preview and see which one the preview says will take less time. Because I've actually found some designs that running offset or flood fill would actually cause the burn time to be longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't played with the cut shapes function yet. Uh, I know they added that a while back, but since they've added it, I haven't really got in there and used it. A DT teacher? What's a DT? What's DT?
I feel like I should know that.
Digital something maybe? It's got to do with my templates. I don't know. What is a DT teacher? Not trying to be, and it may be a word that we just don't use here, or it may just be something so simple that is just I'm missing it. Uh, a southern North boy. What? Southern North
I don't know.
boy.
Usually only Canadians call me that.
Oh, he's talking to you. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Steve is like Steve is like almost an Eskimo and almost a Canadian. So
Okay, I told you last week I drove almost 6 hours and I still wasn't in Canada, and that was pretty much north.
yeah. But what up, Knox? Casey? Got up to tonnage on a mini split and additional head if you need more heat. Yeah, well, I've talked about it, but I just really need, Casey, to be honest with you, I need to finish my insulation. I've still got two walls that I haven't insulated completely yet. I feel as though I'm asking too much of the AC right now until I get those two walls done. But with everything going on, I just have to wait until I get a empty spell and rip a wall out and insulate it. So, oh man, we're getting a lot of comments tonight. Are you reading some of these? Help me keep caught up.
I kind of jumped through them.
Design and technology. Okay, yeah. See, I told you right here. Well, that's cool. Feel free to use my videos and share any of my links as well. Steve agrees. Well, hello there.
Hello, hello.
All right, that ghost is actually a guy. It's not a ghost. Nobody freak out. I got my background filter on, so when you walk by, it's just like a ghost.
I've been watching.
Uh,
I'm a fan.
you a fan?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my chief said he's been out on the balcony watching. You can come in here and talk if you want. We will talk about lasers.
No, I'm good. I'm like that.
Steve will teach you.
I'm watching y'all. I'm doing a good job.
So here,
You're fine.
you actually ran into this situation. So James is asking him about his P20 if he can buy a higher watt module for it. You had
According to
actually looked into
Acer,
that.
yes, I emailed Acer and I asked the very question if they sold an upgrade kit to where I could use the 35 watt module on my P20 chassis. And I was told that they do not offer that, but that I could just swap it out for a V35. So I'm pretty sure the machines are the same. I don't even think there would be a wiring harness change, but you can't get them to sell you that without buying the whole machine. So, but I did get them to confirm for me that my P20 extensions will work on the V35. That was a concern I had, and they said that that's the same extension kit. So, if the extension kit's the same, the wiring harness has to be the same because it wouldn't, unless they just oversized the wires or something like that. But explain the purpose of angle. What? Okay, I'm gonna give this one to you, bro. I don't know what that means.
So I think that's in response to Jeff Teeter was mentioning that he did a 6-hour engraving eagle and was thankful for my suggestion to do it at an angle. Generally,
Oh, okay.
running at an angle is to help prevent what's called banding. And so when you're doing an engrave, especially in just one axis, you can end up in it depending on how your DPI and everything's set, you can end up where one line overlaps more or it skips a little bit, and then you get kind of this banding of lines in there. Where if you're running at an angle, it has both axes running together, and so it's less likely to end up with an area where it kind of gets a half step because it's constantly moving through both axes. It can adjust depending on the max speed for both of your axes, though. That can actually increase your time. So you want to, use it sparingly as far as what's needed to help prevent that and get a clearer image.
Now, Brian, apparently he doesn't want to talk about a whole lot. He went back out on the balcony. But we've worked together for 20-ish years, so it's there's stories. There's a lot of stories. Too many stories for tonight's live. Let's just put it that way. Okay, somebody's got troubles. Intermittently going off. That sounds like a loose connection, but I don't have any experience with that machine.
Yeah, that would be my guess as well. Is that you might have a wire that is working loose in its plug. The plastic plug might be seated correctly, but you might want to check to see if any of the wires feel loose in there. Make sure that that's not intermittently making connection.
And also, if you have it powered on to where the laser is firing and you move it by hand and it goes off in one particular direction, that may lend itself to which wire is loose and which way it's binding or whatever. But it sounds like there's a wire that maybe it wasn't seated good in the plug or something, or got pulled loose. That would be my guess, and I think Steve, we seem to concur on that one. So I would go check that because there's a good chance that's what it is. Steve, you may know more about the wiring because I've been out of wiring since the day of CB radios until recently.
Yeah, well, that's that's that funky Comgro connector on the top of that Z1, where it's got the two plugs, at least on the original one. I'd have to look. That might be something you have to have custom made because it's not necessarily going to be a normal stock one. So I'd have to dig around for that. Victor says he thinks LA Hobby Guy might have one. So
yeah, you might want to check there. A lot of guys will make these adapter cables and stuff. And matter of fact, I've got in my cart a few little kits that have assorted plugs and stuff because I keep running into these air assist pumps that have random different plugs. So I keep adding plugs and wiring and stuff to my cart on Amazon. And what I'm wanting to do is order some of that where I can start making some more adapter cables. I've made a few just by sacrificing some, cables I already had, but I would rather be able to make me some little small, custom little cables from scratch. So I've got to break out my soldering iron and get back to doing that kind of stuff. Brad's saying that could have bad power. Bookermeter. Yeah, with it being intermittent, usually power supplies, if they go out, they're generally, in my experience, they're toast. You either have a very low output or no output. Oh, okay. I take back what I said about this chair being comfortable. And I'm still nursing this back problem I got, guys. I went last week and had a shoved into my spine, and to what I can best describe as the worst pain I've ever felt in my life, injected into my spine, and it really, I mean, if it helped so far, I have not noticed any considerable difference. So I may be having to get a mild tune-up done to my back before too long. All right, guys. Questions, comments, concerns. First of all, did anybody see the shirts? I know a couple of you did. I heard some of y'all were trying to get me to wear that shirt tonight in my life, but unfortunately, I left it at home with my daughter, whose shirt it actually was. No, it wasn't workers' comp. I can't say for sure when it happened. I think it's just old age there, VT. I think it's just too many years of doing too much stuff, and it's just catching up with me. But any of y'all see the shirts by chance? The video that I did? Because I can't believe nobody has brought that up. That is hard to believe.
I saw the first one, but then I was blinded, and I really didn't get to see any others that you showed. So.
Oh, look what the cat done drug in right here. Look. All right, y'all. There's May May. Y'all saw, I don't know if you saw the video, but she put me to work, and she actually had nostrils when I got done with it. Apparently, a lot of people make things for May May, and they forget to add the nostrils, and that's a big point of contention for her.
Mm.
But if y'all haven't, or if you're into paper crafting, or have a family member that's into paper crafting, and just want to learn everything there is to know about it from like the queen of paper crafting herself, that is May May right there. So yeah, she said she's blinded too by the shirt. That is just, You can't have nothing. That's a little ridiculous. but no, May May's a really cool lady. I owe her actually the fact that I made more than one video on YouTube was probably because of her. So because she actually lied to me and told me that I did a pretty good job with my first couple of videos, which looking back at them, she was just telling me that to make me feel better because they were terrible.
You got to give that positive reinforcement at the start,
That's what she was doing, because I look back at my first few videos and I go, why would anybody say that they were good? Because they weren't. They were not.
It's got
Chris said he had to put his laser glasses on to be able to look at the picture of his T-shirt. Yeah, ET saying if he knew what to call the cable. That's the problem with a lot of this stuff, ET, is that these cables don't really have a name. It's just something that some engineer in China or somewhere decided to throw together to make it work. So it's hard to find it. It's better to just try to figure out what connectors it has and try to engineer your own. They're not really like, no other machine would use those. See, Brian said May May's the best. So Brian's aware of May May. Hey, I can make you a crown. If not, I can get Steve to 3D print you one and we'll ship it right on over. I could probably do a crown on the CNC, couldn't I? Yeah.
I mean,
would be flat.
If you can figure out what kind of connectors there are, DigiKey is a good place to look for various. You can get the various connectors, the various types of wire that goes with it, crimping tools and everything. They tend to have a lot of these little things, but like you said, the trick is finding the name of the exact connector that was used, which can be a little tricky because there's a lot of them that are named almost the same thing.
Yeah. Well, Brian, usually I have Fluffy herself or Callie one running around in the shop, but Aliens just kind of, that all got started because Steve said he heard a UFO at my place. That's why the Aliens started.
So just, UFOs just mean it's unidentified. There you go. Do you think, can the P20 cut 1/2 inch walnut?
I mean, can it? Yes. Is it going to take a long time? Yes. Are you going to have your focus and air assist and everything dialed in correctly to keep from over scorching? Yes. You can. It's if I was going to be doing a lot of it, I probably would. I probably wouldn't do it, you know, with a laser. Now, if you just want to do it like one or two jobs, if you do it, be prepared to put out a fire. That's the one thing that I will say. When you start getting to half inch or thicker with any of these lasers, whether they show you on a commercial that it'll cut a 2x4 or not, yes, you could. I could sit there and I can cut a 2x4 with it, but the potential for fire and the fact that it's just not really. I mean, if you just want to flex and see if you can do it, that's fine, but it's just not practical. I did some half-inch oak the other day with a 30 watt just to see if I could. You know what I mean? It wasn't that I had to have the machine. I just did it to see if I could. And out of the three machines, two of them, out of the three burns I did, two of them had a spot to where little embers started forming inside the middle of the material, and you could not see it until the air assist hit it. It looked like a blowtorch inside the enclosure. So you got to be careful with that. And if you have a cloth enclosure, I definitely would avoid doing it. But luckily, you know, I didn't have a cloth enclosure. But if you're going to be cutting something that thick on a regular basis, you're going to have to invest in what I now know is the CNC, because that thing, all that wood that I had piled up that I never knew what I was going to use it for, I'm selling that stuff like crazy in 16-inch pieces, making signs out of it. I mean, I had some cold pieces of oak that I engraved some signs on, and I'm actually making money off of those things, more than I would have if I'd have made a table or something out of them. So if you're going to be doing that on a regular basis, you might as well look at getting into the CNCs. Steve tried
Well,
to tell me for a long time, and I didn't believe him.
yeah, I mean, if your design is is doable by the CNC as well, because if it's got a lot of fine detail in tight corners, it's still going to struggle with that. Um, but yeah, for a one-off project, it's not bad. You can do it. Probably be looking at you know, I tend to speed up my cuts when I got to go multiple, just so it's not lingering there. That, like you mentioned,
Yeah,
you
to
get those
avoid
hot
fire.
spots, and then it'll blow it up. But walnut's not the worst. It's not as hard as oak and such. Walnut and cherry with a 20 watt is definitely doable. Definitely, if you want to cut, like clear aspen or basswood, that's going to cut much easier. Um, but it's doable. But yeah, I think like Clack said, do a few tests first. Make sure you've got a good setting, because the longer you linger there, it's going to, even if it doesn't flare up, it's going to add more charring, and you may or may not like that. So
Yeah, yeah. The biggest thing is when I'm at whatever your cut speed is, add 2 or 3 milliseconds, millimeters per second, or millimeters per minute. Add a little speed to it, because like Steve said, the longer you linger in that real thick piece of wood, that heat builds up, and the more it builds up, it's not going to flame up, so you're not going to see like flames going everywhere, but it will it will turn into what looks like some red hot charcoal briquettes in there, and it'll just start spreading across that wood like wildfire, and it can
yeah,
be very, very dangerous. So never, if you're cutting something that thick, do not walk away from your machine. Like I said, I had one the other day, and when the air assist hit it, man, they were sparks, and like it looked like you threw a log on a campfire inside there when the air assist hit it. So, but well, I appreciate that, May May. We try to help folks out. That's what we do. Uh,
yeah.
we try to keep up with the comments. Sometimes it gets a little hectic. How much air pressure is that? That is a relative question, and Steve is the perfect guy to explain why that is a relative question. So have at it, Steve.
Uh, so it's not so much about the pressure. I mean, you can get some high pressures. What you're really looking for is your airflow. You want to be moving airflow or air through there. You're looking at most lasers, 20 to 30 liters per minute is a good starting point. I wouldn't, you get too much over that, you start risking just moving your material around and creating problems. So the idea there is you're wanting to clean out the cut, you're going to move the smoke and the debris out of the way. Um, but if you add too much of that, you're just going to be adding complexity and difficulty with that.
Yes, and also you got to think too. If you're running on shop air, PSI is a measurement of pressure at a given point. So if you're running 20 psi through a piece of 1/4 inch NPT tubing, and then it gets to that cone, and as me and Steve both recently saw with the longer machine, the air assist cone is bigger than the tube coming into it. You're actually going to see a dramatic decrease in the pressure. Even though you may have the same amount of volume coming out of there, you're gonna lose pressure. And there is a sweet spot between balance of pressure and volume when it comes to air assist. Like Steve said, too much pressure and you're still going to get scorching, but you're going to have a lot of dust and stuff flying up. Not enough volume, and it's a very very fine line. I typically, on the setups that I run, and you can look at how I got mine set up, I run about 10 psi to the regulator. Now, like I said, that changes depending on the size line that feeds the head and the size of the exit on the air assist cone and everything. But typically, anything over about 10 psi to the regulator is too much for any of the machines that I've tried out. So that's my 2 cents on it. See, I thought you were going to go down the whole rabbit hole of volume versus surface area versus pressure.
Well, so yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to sell some hats. I'm a couple things I need to restock on a few because I just bought a few samples to kind of play around with. I've given a few out to some friends to kind of get some feedback on, does this fit a few different size heads? So I do want to have some on hand to be able to give out, and yeah, I could definitely put some up for sale somehow as well. So stay tuned. Like I said, just trying to get a little feedback before I go and buying too many of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I told somebody the other day that matter of fact, it was the lady that's doing my shirts. She said they were wanting to get into doing hats, and I actually referred her over to your video about the stamp on stuff that you're using, and because she said she wanted to get me to burn the patches, and then they were going to make the hats. So I told her that me or Klein one would be more than glad to help her out with that. But to get the material that you found, because I like the way the results that you had on that stuff.
Yeah, the leather
Mark's,
is some decent stuff. It's not as thick as your typical leathers, so some people like that, some people don't. But
yeah, Purple Heart can be really tough to cut. There's actually a lot of wood that you would be surprised that's really hard on lasers, and I don't know if it has to do with the fibrous material it's made out of, or what, but a lot of it is, you would think it would cut easy and it won't. Yeah, Chris, there's a whole bunch of different debates on that kind of stuff. Who picks the location for his offsite? Well, William, this particular event, they have a state association for chiefs of police, and the association basically has 2 or 3 spots that they move it to around the state. They do one summer conference is usually in the south, whether it be Mobile or down here in Orange Beach or wherever. Then they have one in Montgomery occasionally, and then sometimes they go up north to like Muscle Shoals and Huntsville and places like that. It moves around, but it's a state organization that sets all that up. Yeah, Brian says you can sell hats to support your AC bill.
Yeah. Big Scooby's asking, is it better to use scrap pieces of wood to make cutting boards or just buy them ready to grave?
It depends.
Yeah, I was gonna say it depends. If you have the market for highly customized cutting boards, making them yourself can add some value to that. For people who just kind of want, hey, it'd be cool to have this decorative piece on whatever type of cutting board, finding a place that's got some pretty consistent quality at a low price that you can toss in the laser and just go is probably going to be, your bet there. Because, making your own cutting boards, whether it's out of, glued up wood or, even out of just offcuts, it takes time. And, that all adds into, you got to factor that into your cost as well. So I would say if I'm going to custom make them, I'm going to actually want more. And that's going to probably limit my clientele on it. But it depends on the market you're in.
Yeah, and and I'm kind of like with you. I offer, I guess, three different options to most of my customers. I've got the old Amazon straight off the box, bamboo that I can engrave with whatever custom engrave that you want. Those are the most economical because my cost is cheap. They're easy to engrave. They got basically no preparation. The only after thing that I've got to do to them is wash them off with soap and water. So those are the cheapest way that you could go about it. The second would be if you were to like source them at say a Hobby Lobby sale or something like that. But you're still looking at most of these acacia wood and some of these mixed boards that they sell. You're still looking at anywhere from $40 to $50 for your blank. Assuming that you never make a mistake and mess up a board, that's still you're starting your price off pretty high. And if you're getting $25 for the engrave and the design build, then now you're at a $70 cutting board, and that limits how many you're going to actually sell unless it's somebody that just really wants this specific thing. Making them yourself, if you're doing a single piece of wood, which is what I try to get people if they're wanting just decorative, because most of what I do with cutting boards, nobody's really going to be cutting up anything on them. They want them for decoration. So I'm not worried about whether the wood is going to chip when they hit it with a knife or whatever. Now, if they tell me I'm going to actually use this as a cutting board, total different, thing. But I can go to my sawmill and get a piece of poplar that is spalted. It's got some like, a little bit of bug damage to it from where it was a standing dead tree or whatever. Cut that thing out in the shape of a breadboard, and people will pay more money for it than they will a maple black walnut cherry glue up, because that's the look they want. So it really depends on what kind of audience you're catering to. I offer basically all three. And if somebody says, "Hey, I want a cutting board that is made out of my daddy's black walnut tree that fell in my backyard, but he was a tough old man. I want a piece of hickory in there," I can do that, but it's going to cost you, because like Steve said, you got to glue all that stuff up, and you got to plane it, sand it, shape it, then engrave it, then finish it. You know, it would be nothing to run up $150 bill for a cutting board rather quick. So it just depends on your audience, but never limit yourself to the really high end. Never limit yourself to the really low end. Just stay versatile. Basically,
Now,
whatever the customer wants, that's what you do.
yeah. Now that being said, I do tend to, well, we all tend to oversave some of our scrap pieces of wood, but
You
with certain,
reckon? Look, look
these are,
behind you.
you think these are scrap?
Oh no! Well, now a couple of those
These,
pieces, I
these,
think you should just like mail them to
these,
me, because like that one right over your shoulder there looks like I can make a nice board out of it.
these are decorative slabs. um, no, but when I get cut-offs, and even from some of these, you'll get some nice chunks in there, and so if you have that wood, I would definitely try to make something from that and try to sell that, because if you're just going to toss it out, it's a lost opportunity. And so that's where having both the CNC and the laser are nice, because when I get some of these smaller cutoffs, it's perfect for making a bottle opener, or even some of them I'll cut down and mill down into thinner wood, and you can make just keychains out of them out of hardwood rather than some maybe craft plywood and other things. So I definitely do try to repurpose them, but anytime there's multiple glue ups with like a cutting board, you tend to have multiple processes in that. It just adds to the time. So I want to make sure that, and honestly, if I'm making a custom cutting board like that, I'm probably cutting wood purposely for it rather than using scraps. I've seen some of the chaos cutting boards that are made up from scraps, and they're really interesting, but again, they're very time consuming. So
Yeah, you see that, don't you?
yeah.
She complains about mine all the time. Hey, I got lucky last night, man. Yesterday I had a guy, friend of mine that I know. He's a preacher at one of our local churches. He had asked me to make a sign for him, and he sent his son over to pick it up. And while his son was there picking up his dad's project, he looks over and sees this piece of wood in my decorative slab pile, and goes, "Man, I would love to have a sign on that piece of wood." And I'm like, "Well, hey, what do you want?" And so I wound up actually selling another one while he was there. Uh,
Nice.
so she can talk about that is all that is that's a trap for customers when they come in. They see those attractive pieces of wood and they want something made. So I know exactly what I'm doing. That's just
Well, and that's
that's a customer
why
trap.
if you're doing the shows, whether it's a farmer's market, a craft show, wherever, you want to bring things that'll sell, obviously, if you can, but you also want to bring kind of like your portfolio pieces that can show what you can do, because they might see it and go, huh, I might like something like that. I will contact this person, when I can, or
Yeah.
if they don't know you can do it, you're not going to get the sale. It's not necessarily you're expecting to sell this big $500 piece of whatever at the show, but the right people are going to see it and hopefully take notice, and whether they arrange to make something there or call you back later, it's an opportunity to at least show people what you can do.
Oh yeah. Well, it's just like the first three pieces I did, or the first one piece I did on that CNC, the one I did for the ladies that work with Brandy, that Kay's Creek one that I made. I've done had three orders for that same piece with different wording, and I haven't posted pictures of all of them because a couple of them are actually gifts, and I know when the gift is going to be given, so that I can post pictures of it. But I've had two or three orders for those just because people saw them on my news feed on my Facebook page, uh, and I figure there'll be more of it to come. But yeah, you need to definitely visual advertising of your products is the way to go. That's one reason why if you go to my webpage, it's very minimal. There's not a whole lot on my webpage, but down at the bottom there is a slideshow that has all kinds of stuff that I've made. Because I swear I send people to go, hey, hey, look, well, go look at my website. You might see something there that gives you an idea of what you would like to have. But now if it's one of my wife's tables, that's a no go. She's the only one that has the pull to get me to build a table. That takes way too much time. Way too much time.
Here's one that kind of got away from us in all the chatter,
Uh-oh.
asking if you still use your K40.
Is that you or me?
I'm guessing it's more you. You've got more videos.
Well, I technically don't have a K40. I have an M40, which is the same thing. It's just different. It's just a different color. Yes, I have the Monport 40 watt, and you will get to see it again soon because I'm fixing to start cranking out some stuff for Christmas, and that's when I use it more than any other time. And I also have this cool design that I'm wanting to do for some other stuff, or I'm gonna have to cut some clear acrylic. And anytime I cut acrylic or clear acrylic, I use the Monport. Other than that, it's just it's a little harder to set up than say my P20 or even the longer B1 right now for cutting wood. I mean, it's aggravating. The bed size, it doesn't have a camera in it. It's just much easier for me to go to one of my diodes as long as it's something that they do and do well. But when it comes to acrylics, nothing in my shop can beat my little 8x12 machine cutting acrylic. So I'm squirreling on the comments over here. Yes, she's heard me talk about it as man glitter. She has. but uh but yeah, that's really, Michael, to be honest with you. Don't tell Monport I said this, but if it wasn't for acrylic, I probably wouldn't even give it the counter space. I mean, because everything else that it can do, I can do just as well with diodes or the fiber. But acrylic is what earns its keep because that one or two times a month that I need to cut acrylic, it does a really good job of it. Now that I've got it tweaked. Now, in the early days, you can ask Steve. Those things are challenging until you get them dialed in and kind of do a little bit of tweaking to them. So if you don't like tweaking your machines, you might want to go a different route because there are some needed upgrades to really get it to where it'll do a good job. Yeah, Chris, I could see where I could do it with the CNC if it was anything too big for the Monport. But I'm gonna be honest with you, the Monport, now that I've got it dialed in, it rips acrylic. So
Yeah, I've done some acrylic on the CNC, and certain things it's good at, but on the lighter or the thinner, smaller items, the laser generally works pretty well. But you get some interesting effects with engraving with the CNC as well. So
You want to start that one off? You've had yours longer.
So, unfortunately, the fiber has had to sit on the shelf for the past week and a half because I've been busy with work and I've been busy with a couple other machines that came in. I do need to play with the rotary now because they included one of those with very little documentation, but it does look kind of interesting. And my sister, who's a goldsmith at a jewelry store, is curious in it as well because they've been talking about doing some engravings on some of their jewelry. So I told her I'd get this sorted out and give her a demo. But yeah, it's unfortunately it's going to be a couple weeks before I get back on that one. But engraving acrylic, that really impressed me with that one. Can't really cut it, but
Yeah, you had some pretty good results on that. I haven't played with acrylic yet. I've got hung up on metals because I've never been able to do that, and so I kind of hadn't got off the metal thing yet. Yes, Brian, I did get the rotary finally. I had to, for some reason, me and Steve got our stuff. Both of them got, we both talked to them, interacted with them at the same time. Steve's got sent to his. When he got his rotary. I got mine. I didn't. They told me it was en route, but it never showed up. And then our contact wound up like changing companies or something. So I had to email them back and was like, hey, are y'all still sending this? But I finally got it. I got it set up. I've used it on a couple of the little rings that they sent with the machine. I figured out how to make it work, but I haven't come up with the project that I want to do with it for the video yet. But it's that is in the future. But I had a couple of machines. I've actually got one sitting in the shop now that I haven't even put together yet. I had a couple of machines show up and kind of pulled me away because I have to test those things out before I can, talk about them. So when I get back to the shop, maybe I can get caught up enough to get some more stuff out with the fiber. But I'm wanting to come up with a really cool project for the rotary, and I just haven't quite figured out what that is yet. Yeah, Brian, I hear you. Yeah, she's taken some minor roles in some videos, but she really won't let me like put her on camera. I've tried to get her to come out in the lives, and she'd rather sit back in the comments and make fun of me. But we'll see how that goes. Maybe one day. That's right.
Well, you guys did a good job in the video. You did get out, so kudos to you, Brandy. That was good work.
Yeah, did you see her trying to take over the shop?
Well, yeah.
Well, but yeah, she's I'm not gonna lie, guys. I mean, after 30 years, you kind of get used to her. She can be annoying at times, but I keep her
from
around.
the safety of your hotel room.
Yeah, I can say that when I'm in another zip code. But no, I have fun when she's out there, and like I said, it's different. And she actually helped me out today too, guys, because y'all know I'm nursing this bad back, and I had to go out on this trip. Well, I had orders stacked up. Like literally, there is a stack of 8 stove covers in my shop right now that I built out the past couple of days, trying to get ready to go out of town. And so she actually hooked me up today because my back. She didn't want me riding the lawnmower because I just had that needle stuck in my spine. So so she actually got out there and cut the grass for me this afternoon. First time ever driving the zero turn, and she sent me pictures, the house, the cars, all the kids, the dogs, the lawnmower. Everything survived, so we're good.
So she didn't cut down your favorite tree, is what you're saying.
Well, now I can't promise you she didn't cut down something of mine with the lawnmower. That may have happened, and I just hadn't found out about it yet. But she did get the grass cut for me, and I really appreciate it. Like I said, I'm very fortunate to have her to help me, especially like right now when I'm not necessarily at 100%. But yeah, Jeff, I'm glad you think so. You don't know how much that means to me that you actually think you better look at it.
So, Giovanni from Brazil, welcome all the way from
Brazil.
there. I was wondering about how to get a darker engrave. What do you think?
Well, it would depend on the material. Some of the tricks of the trade, of course, I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there, and some of you guys may swear by the borax approach. But the borax thing only works if you do not blow it off, if you seal it before you touch it, because all it does is creates a bunch of really, really black ash. I've tried it, but you better spray some clear coat or something over it before you touch it with anything, because that stuff will get everywhere. It's like graphite; you can't get it off. Uh, Running on certain woods, you can actually take your machine out of focus ever so slightly, and what you end up with is, and this is physics, so I kind of feel like I should let Steve explain this. But if you have your laser at 100% best possible focus that you can have, it basically vaporizes the material to the point to where it doesn't make it turn black. It will actually be just the color of wood. But if you raise the laser up a little bit out of focus to where the beam is not quite as strong as it was, then you start getting into that realm of where it allows for heat to build up in the material surrounding the beam and will cause it to black a little bit more. If you add a lot of times, if you add a little bit of air to that, you can even cause a little more blacking. But it's when you start messing with the air. If you go too much, you're going to blow it out of there. If you go not enough, it's a juggle. But raising the focus on a lot of woods will help create a blacker look because it doesn't just destroy the material on impact. And Steve can feel free to chime in and express your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, no, you're taking the power, you're defocusing, you're spreading it out on a bigger area. So yeah, it's not going to be quite as intense in one spot, and then you can actually, depending on your lines per inch, you'll have a little bit of overlap there as it's filling. But really, it's going to be a mixture of playing with that, and hopefully you have some extra material to be able to run a material test on it to really kind of get an idea of power versus speed, and maybe including playing with the focus a little bit. You are going to be limited to the ability of it to get very dark in some woods. They just don't darken that much. Others darken a lot. So yeah, as far as treating it, yeah, I'm not one to do that. There are certain things you can do before or after, with sealing and staining it that can be better or detrimental. But generally, I'm going to go with my material test, play around with the focus, and that'll be what it is. If you need something to be just really dark and you don't, and it doesn't need to be burnt, you can always try doing the, masking it off, burning it through, and then painting it. That'll definitely give you a contrasting color, but it's going to be painted effect instead of, just a nice burn. So that's, if you're going to be doing this for business, definitely worthwhile spending some time getting a few different types of materials so that you can kind of give examples of what you can do, both for you to practice on, but then, give some examples to your customers so that they have better expectations up front of what the end product's going to be as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you ever want to check a material, guys, to see if defocusing, and you can actually defocus down or defocus up, but let's get real. If you're going to do anything, get your laser further up so you have more, margin of error in case you get a fold or anything or warping material. But do a speed test or a power test on a piece of material with your focus set the proper way, the way that you always set it. Then take something like, let's say, maybe a little thin piece of acrylic or something that's, a couple millimeters thick, and focus to the top of that piece of acrylic, and then run that exact same speed test on that piece of material or that engraved test, and just look at the difference in the results. And you can walk that up or down. But I have found that about a millimeter high, to me, seems to get most materials. If I go up about a millimeter on my engrave, and that's something I went over with Klein last night. We were doing stove covers. I out focus my machine up about a millimeter and a half on my stove covers because I make them out of yellow pine, and yellow pine has this thing to where a lot of times you can tell there's a recess in the material, but it won't burn, like it doesn't black. But if you defocus it a little bit, it makes those edges a little rougher also. So when you stain it, it stains darker than the rest of the wood does. So those are just little things that I've kind of stumbled across and, making a couple of hundred stove covers. and using different pine that I mill off the mill and stuff like that. So, but those are always things that if you don't have anything going on, like I said, run your speed test, focus it out, a millimeter or two up, and see what kind of a difference it makes. And you'll find that your machine is going to be slightly different, but it will make a difference. Yeah. She watches a lot of, and this is odd, guys, because she's not really a big gardener, but she does actually she started watching a bunch of gardening videos. So I suspect that if she ever does retire with me, she's going to be like wanting to garden all the time. She does have a garden, but it's not like on the scale that she acts like she wants it to be. So, but I'm glad everybody thinks the videos were good, because if y'all told her she was terrible or made fun of her, she may never come back. So appreciate y'all. And I've heard, Steve, you're trying to come up with a little variety in your content as well. Is that true?
Yep.
So
Variety.
y'all keep a check on Steve. Steve's got some weird stuff going on over there with his content. It's going to be different. It's not going to be the typical Steve. It'll be better.
Well, I mean, I can give you a sneak preview.
Okay. Hey, we'll take it.
All right,
we get early access for the Sunday Night Live, guys. You saw it here first.
All right. Well, let's see if this works. So,
Uh-oh.
We're actually bringing in. I know a few people have asked for this.
Wow, that's really. As they say, that's a really. Okay, Steve, your audio, bro. Steve, you've lost audio.
Okay, I turn this one back on. All right, how's that?
That works.
All right.
Now we can do the Brady Bunch thing. That'll work, and then you just throw that one up here. There you go.
All right.
There.
Well, it's beautifully in focus too on this camera, but so I thought I would just do a little sneak preview of this machine, and it's we'll run a quick job on it and see what you think. This is probably the first thing I've ever run on this. All right. So you ready?
Sure.
All right. I might have to get closer to it to check on something, but
okay, there's something fishy about this, guys. What in the world? Is it playing carnival music?
Come on, name that tune.
Okay, so is the machine playing some kind of music?
No, the machine is working a job.
Okay, I'm missing something here.
All right.
Yeah, Steve likes to rub it in that he has the larger version of my 4040 Pro. So that's what.
There you go.
That's what he's going to do.
So that's the theme song to Indiana Jones. And so,
Okay.
Let's get the screen right there. No, so the stepper motors they run at different frequencies, and so they make different tones, and so there are actually file converters to take a MIDI file of music and turn it into G code. So it turns the motors at different speeds to make the tones and make the music.
I really wish I had my Stream Deck right now, because you just took your nerddom up to a whole nother level.
Oh,
like
come on.
you have
been doing this for years.
Yes, but you have just really exposed your inner nerd, because you have literally took a workshop tool and turned it into a musical instrument. I mean, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. But you got way too much time on your hands. But anyway, Steve's going to have some content coming where he's trying that. That's the next one up from the one I've got, right?
You sure? I mean, it's not. It's a little bit
as far
bigger.
As their newer ones.
This is
but as far as their newest ones.
It's a 600 by 500 millimeter machine, and yeah, I think the stock spindle is a little bit stronger. Yours was like what, a 75 watt. This is a 300 watt, but then I can swap it out
Yeah.
for a router as well. So yeah, I got that assembled last night, and just I still need to button up some of the wiring. It needs a little bit of extra cable management on top, but um, yeah, it's going to be fun. Smaller. I mean, it's smaller, but it's still taking up quite a bit of space on
Yeah.
my assembly table. But definitely wanting to do some kind of starter CNC content, and combining CNC and lasers, and just in general fun with
Oh
that.
yeah.
And then we'll step it up to the 150 as well. But this is a little more relational machine. Not quite the
Yeah,
baby
and
that you
it's
got, but
what. Hey, that little baby is paying for itself right now. That's all I care.
that's the important thing.
But yeah, for those of you that joined late or whatever, I am not actually in the shack. So if I have any kind of technical difficulties, I'm in a motel room, guys. Okay, so the internet is what it is. I am not in Clack Shack Command tonight. So if my internet goes crazy or if my audio is terrible, the camera should be fine. I'm using a Logitech HD Pro, just like the one I use inside my enclosure. And so the video should be okay considering I'm using motel room lighting. But yeah, no, Brian, I got the machine for free, but the router wasn't free. The bits weren't free. The software wasn't free. The I've dropped I probably put about $600 worth of stuff in. I had to buy a table to put it on. Well, that'd be $800. I spent probably about $800 on getting that thing to where I can use it. Uh, and the past couple of days, I've actually made a little bit of that back. So hopefully, within the next month or two, I can recoup my expenses. Because, like I said, what they did, they sent me a machine with no bits except for the little 3 or 4 that come with it, and you've got the same ones probably, Steve, and they're nothing really impressive. And
Yeah,
I have learned that CNC companies will bleed you to death with bits because they've got all kinds of different bits that do cool stuff. And no two bits are the same. No two bits do the same process. And so I just ordered another box of bits because I found one that I didn't have that I need. I didn't have like I got me a 1.5 inch like planing bit coming to where I can plane down my wasteboard and stuff like that. But yeah,
yeah.
no, Victor, she didn't kick me out. I'm out of town for work. I'll be back shortly.
That's one of the rabbit holes with CNCs, is all the bits that can do different things with it. So yeah, and then you start getting nicer ones, and then you push them, and then you break them, and then you cry a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I've been trying to do. I've kind of made a rule of thumb. Easel, Easel, and that's one reason I went with Easel. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I know there's other softwares out there that probably are more powerful tools. Easel to me is simple because it to ask you what kind of spindle do you have, what kind of machine do you have, what kind of wood do you have, and it recommends settings for you. And so I have been going with the recommended settings for like if it says what kind of wood do you have and I'm doing oak, I put in that I have hard maple. That way it gives me a little slower feed rate than what it would normally do on a bigger machine. And so far, I've been able to let the machine start the job and just gradually increase the feed rate until I get it to where it sounds like it's cutting at a good pace. And so far, I haven't broke or bent or burnt up any bits. So I think that's going pretty well so far.
Yeah, Mark, I fully endorse the Jenny line of bits that Cody's got over at Cadence Manufacturing. And as a matter of fact, I backed him on his Kickstarter when he was moving to go full time and buying his big expensive machine to move more of that in house. So, yeah, definitely for people, it might not necessarily want to be your first bit because your first few bits tend to get broken as you're kind of learning things. But once you figure it out, having a good bit that stays sharp, that runs well, definitely worth spending a little extra money on. They, having something that lasts well and cuts well is worth spending the money on it. So,
Well, right now I'm learning with Jinmitsu bits that are made for that machine that I can buy on Amazon that are like $20 for 4 or 5 of them. And I think I'm going to stay there until I start having a problem with bits dulling or whatever until I get the hang of it. Now I did start using. I used two different approaches. I want to do a video on this, but I bought. We discussed. I bought me some of the woodworkers tape, and I've also been using your trick of the painter's tape with the super glue, and both approaches work really really well, and that man that makes it all the difference because I had been worried about cutting those little metal pieces or ruining a bit or breaking a bit, sending it flying across the room, but luckily, since I've started using the glue down method instead of the clamps, I don't have that concern anymore. And it works great too, by the way. And my spoil board only has literally minor scratches on it because, in order to cut it all the way through, I had to kind of make it go just a little bit thicker than the wood. But so far, so good.
So now I don't know. You don't have any physical products in your Etsy shop, do you?
No, I can't. I don't have the time.
Yeah.
I only sell local, or if somebody's willing to pay the shipping, I will ship. But anything too big, shipping's terrible.
Yeah. So I do if it's a non-customized item, or maybe if I have just a few options on it, I will try to keep some in stock. Primarily because people, Amazon has ruined mail order in that people expect you order it, it ships right away, and it gets delivered fairly quickly. So you either need to be very upfront and say, hey, this takes 1 or 2 weeks or however long it takes you to make and ship it, or you want to have it on hand. Because also Etsy, when you put that in there, they have an expected delivery shipping and delivery date. And if you miss that, your ratings start going down, and then they stop promoting your stuff. So, I mean, it's hard enough to get in there as a star seller and have them helping promote your stuff. Anytime you get those dings because you just happen to miss a message and get back to them late or ships late, those really hurt a lot as well. So, yeah, on the items that are they're not customizable, I'll definitely try to stock them up and actually have a stock level in there. Otherwise, you want to make sure when you're setting up that listing, you put a very realistic delivery time and shipping time on there.
Yep. Yeah, Brian. I don't know that I'm that skilled as far as I guess as long as the machine's flat and everything, it should work out. But I've been adding with easel basically. It's got a little thing that you just drag it down to the depth that you want to do the cut, and I've just been dragging it down all the way, and I've been measuring the material with just using a ruler instead of a mic. I guess I probably need to start using a mic, and I've been using a lot of rough cut wood. So sometimes with rough cut, even though I plane it, it may not be exactly perfect because I'm not really milling this stuff up to make it look perfect. I want it to look rustic. So with the wasteboard, like I said, I've got a little bit of an indent in it from the one that I did where I used tape. But since I used the carpenter's tape, it gives you a little bit more of a little more lift under the piece. So I got a little bit more wiggle room. But the good news is when I lay my material down, I know exactly where the pattern for that particular sign is going to be cut out at, so that I can avoid knots and whatnot. But I'm still learning. It's a lot to learn. I mean, Steve got lucky. He already knows how to work a CNC. I had to learn how to work it before I could even make any content with the thing. Now, I think he's suffering from the same learning curve I am with the fiber, though. I do think we've been kind of in the same boat on that thing.
Yeah, that one's had a little more of a learning curve to it. This one with the GRBL controller, it's just a little bit different in using playing around with the sender. I got to make sure I've got a post processor of a Vectric that I can send to this. But yeah, I'll find out in the next couple days how smooth this one goes.
All right, guys, got to ice my back. This chair's killing me. Oh, that's cold. Brandy'd be glad to know I'm doing it, though. She's been staying on me. Have you iced your back today?
Yeah, Brian, that's been my experience too on double-sided tape. Now, I haven't tried the actual woodworker's tape to see if that's a little less gummy than your typical double-sided tape, and that's why I've used the CA and painter's tape trick. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes for Clack with his testing.
Well, I cut through. I did 3 yesterday using it, and I will tell you that when you cut through it, it does collect a lot of sawdust and stuff, but it didn't stick to the bits. It does stick to the wood, but you can just like pick it off. Uh, but at first I wasn't sure what it was. I thought it was a piece of the wood it didn't cut, but what it is that tape mixes with the sawdust. But now the stuff I'm using, it is really, really thin. It doesn't have a whole lot of foam in it per se. Uh, and I'd have to look at the order to see what the kind is, but it came referred from a couple of my followers. Told me, hey, use this brand. And after 2 or 3 people recommended the brand, I felt like it was worth a shot, so I ordered me some of it to try. And like I said, so far it's doing a pretty good job for me. So I'm happy with it right now. But I'm gonna do a my thoughts on that part too, as I do more updates with the CNC. But just haven't got around to that yet. Gotta find my Tums. Not in the shack where I usually have them. Oh, y'all gonna make me look and see what brand I'm using now.
So Jack, I do have some kind of cam-shaped clamps that I use with my Onefinity, but I do have, the quarter 20 set up in. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do on this Genmitsu. They've got the T-track slots, and they've got some pre-made MDF spacers, but I'm thinking about putting a spoil board on top of that, maybe a 1/2-inch MDF of sorts. So I haven't really decided how I'm going to do that just yet, but we'll see. I'd be interested to see what you've got going.
Oh, what I did find out after my last video, guys, they actually do make shish kebab sticks with sandpaper made to them. I ordered some of those. I thought that would be a great idea, but apparently somebody thought of it before I did. The stuff that I got is called X-Fasten double-sided woodworking tape. It's made for wood turning, wood template, residue free, blah blah blah. But it's called X-Fasten double-sided woodworking tape. And Aura Mask is the bomb for stuff that you're going to paint. The bomb. My buddy Tip gave me that idea, and it's nice. Yeah, X-Fasten. See, Brian, that's what he said he's using. Brian may have been one of the ones that told me to use that stuff.
So besides the CNC and sign work, you got anything else new going on in your shop? Things you're testing or working on?
No, I'm trying to get caught up on all those covers. I let myself get behind on stove covers. I had, I was up to 15 stove covers, but I got like 8 or 9 of those knocked down. Yeah, Brian, I've been using a down cut, 1/8-inch down cut for cutting them out, and I've been using a 1/4-inch for a down cut for roughing, and I have been using a V-bit, 60-degree 1/2-inch V-bit for my detailing. And so far, so good. I had a little bit of peel, but it was like where it got really, really thin, the corner would peel off, but it wasn't a big deal because when I sand it, I just kind of bump that with a sander if I get any paint on it, and it goes back to being wood. So I've been fortunate so far. But I did find, and I feel like, and I could be wrong, I feel like for cutting, it's probably better, and y'all may can tell me because I've kind of been debating myself on this. I feel like it's better kerf wise and load on the DeWalt. I feel like the smaller bit's better when you're cutting because I'm really not worried about how wide the area is. One, it generates less dust, and 2, it just seems like it would require less force, which would, a little less wear and tear on the router using a smaller bit. But that's just my opinion. But that's why I've been cutting with the 1/8 inch down cut, and it seems to be doing a pretty good job. So what do you think from your experience?
Well, I guess it depends on your machine. You know, the bigger bits on a machine that can handle it generally can move through material faster. So, doing just a straight cut without details, it's usually I would rather use a 1/4 inch over an 1/8 inch. But if I have tighter corners, then I use I like when I was making my airplane stands, I was actually using I think it was a 2 millimeter end mill, and it was an 1/8 inch 1/8 inch shaft, but shank, but it was actually a 2 inch or a 2 millimeter cutting area. So that helped me get the tighter corners and smaller dog bones to get things to fit together. But yeah, I couldn't go as fast through the material with that one without snapping them off. So
Yeah. Well, I just figured that because of the bit being smaller like that, it wouldn't. If there was going to be any flexing issues with the chassis or anything like that, that smaller bit would be less likely because smaller surface area. But I don't know. I haven't played with that yet. I haven't tried a 1/4 inch for cutting, but yeah, it makes sense too what you're saying because it would actually have a little more time to pull the chips out because it's got two blades in basically. Brian's wanting to know if you've got a groovy Jenny.
I don't have a groovy Jenny. Yeah, I want to try one out, and I was hoping. So when he did his Kickstarter, he was making bundles of his, and I kind of was hoping I could get more than one, but without setting up a second account and doing it separately, I wasn't able to do that. But I would like to play with one, and I'm probably going to order one in the near future to try it on a couple of these. I've got a number of the Amana tool bits and such, but I'd love to play around with the kind of that down cut style V bit, but haven't had a chance yet.
Yeah, the V bits seem to be pretty common, pretty popular with people, and it does a really good job.
Jeff, two of my older CNCs had vacuum tables on them, and they are very nice. I actually had them where I could have a spoil board as well, so I could cut through it. But yeah, there are times when it's nice, but they can also be a little frustrating to work with on if you're doing a lot of cut through operations. So
Yeah. Well, Jeff, it is primarily lasers generally, but we didn't specify. We just said it would be Sunday Night Live. Now, typically we do talk about lasers mostly, but we're gonna have to rename some stuff or change some topics. But it's getting to where it's everything from Steve's beard to air conditioner crowdfunding to lasers to CNCs to
well,
my
that's
wife. I mean, it's basically whatever goes, whatever you guys bring up. So if you want to change the
that was
topic,
part
just
of
mention something.
that was part of why my channel title is Vintauri's Workshop, because I just kind of wanted to encompass anything I would do with out in my workshop. Now, a lot of it lately has been lasers because that's been kind of cornerstone to a lot of my hobbies and such the past few years. But yeah, I tried to give myself that leeway in at least the naming of it. So
Yeah. Ooh, fourth lens from the Acer since December 31st or since December. Yeah, you got something going on there.
yeah,
You running shop air? I know what this sounds like because I had that problem for a little while.
yeah. If you're,
'Cause I pop.
I guess what is happening to them? Are they just getting really dirty, or are they actually breaking? Um, if they're getting any sort of debris on them, and then the lasers interacting with that, it's going to eventually etch it and destroy them. But for some people, they actually have them break, or others just kind of smoke up. But a lot of it could be the material we're working with, or something that's out of whack with your air system.
Thank you there, Jeff. Well, I'm hoping that this back thing corrects itself, but we'll see. Yeah, with this one, I think I'm gonna be honest with you. The only time I've had problems with my uh, lenses on my Acer was when I first put my air conditioner in, and it was because of the humidity getting into the air. and that humidity and that air assist, when that air comes out of that small orifice inside that cone and it expands at a rapid rate, it causes the condensation on the lens, and that condensation was interacting with the laser. And finally figured that out, upped my game on water filtration, and I haven't had to change my lens since. But I went through 3 lenses in just like a month before I realized that was what was happening. So if you're using shop air, make sure you're not getting any kind of moisture collection inside the module.
It says it's using the air assist pump that came with the unit.
Mm.
Those can get dirty themselves too, depending on the intake of the air it's getting. So, yeah, I think you can take that apart and clean it a little bit. But
Yeah. John, I don't really know exactly what I did to it. My guess is it's 48 years of picking up logs and doing, stuff with my work, chasing people, fighting people, car accidents, you name it, bicycle accident, whatever. But I have a L4, L5, L5 S1 bulging disc with my sciatic nerve being affected, which they use the word affected. It's not, they should use something other than, it's not affected. It is downright irritated, angry, mad. My whole leg hurts basically from the time I wake up till the time I go to sleep, sometimes while I'm asleep. So I went last week, and they tried doing a block, and I'm waiting to see if it actually has any effect on my pain level at all. But so far, I don't feel much different than I did before I went. So we'll see how that goes. I'm just getting old, wore out. That's what it is. Too much hard work. I can't even use my sawmill because I can't roll the logs over right now. It's depressing. Which luckily I hadn't been using a mill much lately anyway. So. He said, yes, moisture boils on the lens and then poof. Yeah. Yeah, I learned that the hard way. Like I said, when I got my air conditioning, I never had that problem until I got it.
so I think Daniel asked earlier, he's thinking about building a large enclosure for 4 diode engravers. And I think there was some some talking in the chat about that. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Well, my first thoughts is if when you open the door to put more material in there, smoke is coming out, you don't have enough ventilation. Because when I open my big enclosure, if I stop a job and I count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and open the door, there's no smoke in my enclosure. It's all gone. The only time smoke is in my enclosure is when something's actively burning. So if my thing is, if you're having a problem with the burn is over and done and you're opening the lid and smoke is rolling out into the room, you're not pulling enough air through there. Whether it's too small of a fan or whether your air intake is restricted or something, you're not letting that smoke get out of there. It shouldn't look like a house fire inside your enclosure. If I see smoke, if I can physically see smoke in one of my enclosures, I've either got a fan that's quit or something's obstructing my air intake. I don't. Yeah, you address airflow before you go to messing with the doors, because that should not be a problem in my opinion. It's not at my shop anyway, and I got some big enclosures.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely doable. You're just going to have to, ensure you have proper airflow through there. And the larger the enclosure you get, kind of the more, it almost exponentially goes up how much airflow you're going to need to keep that moving there. I would, I mean, I guess if it was me, I would look at it as still being able to have zones, if at all possible, just to give you some options. You can put some blast gates in and be able to direct the air where you need it. But that would be a pretty big piece of real estate that you're going to be dedicated to. But I can also understand having just one one setup. I've been looking at how I can maybe combine two down in my basement, having two different going at the same time off of one fan. But
Oh, you
yeah,
said you
it
put 4 engravers in there.
yeah, four is that's
It's a lot of
quite the
machines.
large lot of machines in there and such. So um,
Yeah,
I
you'd
don't know. I
almost
guess
need like
I
a fan for each machine just to make sure.
yeah, well, maybe, but
Or either a really big one, but it would be bad if you had a really big machine, really big fan, and you're only running one machine. You had to run a 9-inch or a 10-inch fan. Oh, that just seems a little overpowered. But variable speed large fan would probably work. Don't they make a 8-inch variable speed?
oh yeah, yeah.
It'd
I
be a
want to
little
see
pricey.
pictures of it for sure as you build, because I mean it sounds interesting. But yeah, it's really just about making sure you got the proper airflow moving to keep that smoke from building up, and then it shouldn't be too big of an issue as far as that. Um, you'll definitely want to kind of keep in mind how you're going to direct all the airflow. With one fan, you're probably still going to need to somehow try to baffle it so it goes to all four areas. Otherwise, you might find that you're getting a lot of air movement through the area where the outlet is. But
Yeah, I'd be kind of curious. My thing would be if you had 4 machines in there, my thought process would be to extract air from the middle and ventilate the two ends. Because if not, you're going to have a whole bunch of dirty air having to travel a long way to get to the door. So I would
yeah,
probably
definitely.
ventilate somewhere in the middle and then have it where it vents on the ends inside.
Yeah,
So, and it actually wouldn't even hurt to have a couple of baffles or something in there to where you could pull it down below and kind of keep that stuff separated. Because if not, the two middle machines are going to get nastier than the ones on the end because of all the, if you don't have enough downflow. If you got enough downflow, it shouldn't affect it. That would be an interesting build. I wouldn't, and see, I guess maybe it's a little different with me, but if you're going to put 4 machines in there, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have 4 doors because you're you're going to want to, yeah, because even like if you're running it and you open one of the doors, you're going to have to always wear glasses because there may be another machine in there that's still running. So maybe just a sub compartmented enclosure with just 4 little boxes, individual enclosures, but one massive build. Oh, yeah. Somebody said I may have something else, but I've actually had an MRI, so they pretty much got it nailed down. But it's just I'm hoping not to have myself cut on. But if I do, you guys will know because I'll be not very happy. I'll be sitting behind a computer a lot. Uh,
it's when you'll have to get your 3D printer.
Well, I mean, no, I can still do stuff, I guess. I mean, I've been in the shop working my butt off the past 4 or 5 days. It actually doesn't hurt as bad when I'm standing as it does when I'm sitting. Sitting's what hurts.
Well, uh, some of that, yeah. I mean, when your muscles are at rest, they they will tend to kind of start pushing on things and such. It's when you're moving around and exercising them, they probably are providing relief.
Now, it's the where my disc is bulging. When I sit, it bends my spine to cause that little bulge to push out into that sciatic nerve. Oh, they showed it to me on the MRI the other day. Oh, it's amazing. Something that small can hurt so bad. But apparently, when I sit down, the way that my spine bends is causing it to press out into that nerve. And they went and put the little magic happy juice on it the other day. Which, if anybody ever tells you you're going to do a block in your back, and they're not going to sedate you to do it, don't do that. That was a bad idea. That was a terrible idea. Well, I'm hoping I don't have to have a fusion. They're saying that they think they make it go in and just kind of like do some trimming and fix my problem. But it's getting to the point where we don't care what they have to do. So, yeah, John said he understands. Yeah, mine gets really angry when I sit down, so I wind up like sitting sideways, leaning like this, like twisted or something. I'm on my feet. Like I can get out there in my shop on my feet, standing around, doing stuff, walking from machine to machine, and I'm fine as long as I don't do anything crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I sit down to drive down the road 10 minutes and I'm squirming like a cat on a hot roof. It's just, can't have it. Well, anyways, guys, I think most everybody in here has been either regular customers or attendees. Had a couple of new people. I don't know if they're still here or not, but don't forget about the laser community page. I got to stand up for a second.
Yeah, for those of you on Facebook, we do have a laser engraving community Facebook page, a group you can join and ask questions, share ideas, just kind of hang out with kind of like-minded people. Most of that in there is lasers, of course. So if you are not a member there and are on Facebook, we'd love to have you there as well. And as usual, if you can like both our Facebook pages, subscribe to both our YouTube channels, that definitely helps us out. And we appreciate the support. We appreciate the comments and the likes and the views on that as well. So this is our break to do our plug for that. So if you're on my channel and you haven't subscribed to Clack, jump over to him, give him that subscription if you'd like to. And then conversely, if you're over on Clack's channel and haven't subscribed to me, I would definitely appreciate having you over here as well.
Yup. Oh, well, who was that said that? Jeff Schultz. I surely hope that because they told me I can go 3 rounds before they forced me to surgery. So maybe if I'm fortunate, I can have that result. But I will tell you this: I will not be conscious next time they put a needle into my spine because the needle going in was no problem. The medicine was terrible. No, I haven't, Victor. I haven't carried my wallet in my back pocket in I don't know what 20 years or so. That is a well-known thing in law enforcement because you spend so much time riding around a patrol car. It is also a well-known fact that if you do like go out on a call and you wind up fighting somebody or whatever, there's a chance they might wind up with your wallet. So typically, those aren't in our pockets. So that's not been an issue for a long time because there's nothing worse than going out chasing somebody through the woods, getting back to the car and going, "Where's my wallet?" So typically that was always locked up in the car. But yeah, I've done all that. But now you got to keep in mind too, guys. I spent 20 something years wearing a gun belt and probably 15, 16 years as an operator wearing full kit with Kevlar helmet, Kevlar vest, ammo, rifle slung, gun belt, doing 5-6 mile force marches, standing on my feet for 12-hour standoffs. That kind of stuff probably hasn't helped the situation. But I don't do that anymore. I've retired. I do lasers, CNCs, and YouTube now. I've got out of that. I'm letting the younger guys do that. They can wear their vertebrae out. I'm gonna save what's left of mine for retirement. But yeah, pinched nerves are nothing to joke about. They hurt.
So I don't remember if I mentioned this last week or not. But speaking of events that people are going to, coming up in October, there is the Minnesota Woodworkers Expo up at Canterbury Downs Expo Center, and that group has asked me to be able to come up there and do some laser demonstrations or something throughout the day. And so I have signed up to do that. I have committed to it. I have to find out kind of what I'll be able to do. I know there'll be power available, and it's kind of a fairly big. It's not a carpeted conference center, so they'll let me get away with some stuff. But I gotta make sure that I can safely run a laser and mostly I'm concerned of the the smoke and such. So I'm working on that. But if people are up in this area or relative area, it's a good show. There's a lot of sponsors from Rockler and Woodcraft to Walt and others. There's some other makers. There's other wood dealers and everything in the area. There's a tool swap as well. So it's more general woodworking, but they're definitely trying to include more of the digital woodcraft as well. So I'll be there doing something throughout the day, dragging a lot of my lasers along, or as many as I can that'll be able to do some demos. So that's it's a little bit out yet. It's October 14th. It's on Saturday, 9 to 4, but it's free and open to the public. So it would be great to see people there.
Yeah, Scooby, I think Scooby said he might be able to come up there. He won't know what the dates are. You got it on your website or your Facebook page or anything?
I shared some through Instagram. As I kind of get it fleshed out, I'll have it on Facebook as well. But yeah, it's Saturday, October 14th.
Yeah. Well, Brandy didn't make me do all that. At one time, I lived and breathed that type of stuff, and I have for a long time. And it's just it's a young man's game. At some point, you got to realize that you can't do stuff like that from now on. It just don't work. Like me and this guy, we used to run 3.5 miles a day every day. We would do bleachers at 6 a.m. I mean, we done really, really, really intense stuff for a long time, and I think it's just old, wore out. So but anyway, we'll see if we can get. Yeah, I have actually been thinking about getting one of those. I was hoping that within the next 3 or 4 days, this little thing would work, but we'll see. Like I said, I'm new to this whole thing. My dad had back pain for a long time, but I've never really had a problem with it, guys. I was the guy that could pick up whatever and run with it. And when we would do competitions or whatever, I was the downed officer guy. I was the one that picked people up and ran with them on my back. I never had this problem, and now here I am. Maybe that's why I got this problem. I was always that guy. But anyway, so it was something else I was going to mention. Oh, September the 9th. I think some of y'all may have already saw it, but I put the Now, Victor, I haven't actually retired. I don't do that stuff unless I absolutely have to anymore. I've got a couple more years before I can actually go home and retire. I'm mostly in the office these days. I quit running dog tracks and stuff. About the time I hurt my back, I quit running dog tracks. But but I've had to lay off temporarily, probably permanently. We'll see. But yeah, and I had a really bad car wreck back in 2003 that should have killed me, and it didn't. And I'm not too sure that all this didn't originate back then. I was just too stubborn to realize I was hurt. Yeah, I'm doing some stretches. They're really odd looking yoga stretches type things. So I'm not going to show you what they look like, but it does seem to be helping. I also have an inversion table, which the doctor said was a good idea, but I couldn't bring it with me, so I don't have it today. And my wife and the doctor told me I couldn't do it for like 3 or 4 days after the procedure the other day, so I hadn't done that. But hopefully it'll all work out. We're gonna keep praying that that it's not in the cards for me to continue to deal with this much longer. But yeah. When you're younger, you don't think about these things, and that's like I was telling Eric earlier is, yep, that's what it's called. That's what I was telling Eric earlier is, you don't realize when you're younger what all this stuff's going to come back to, and it's the little things like being able to tie your own shoes without enduring a tremendous amount of pain that you take for granted. But putting on my right shoe is a challenge these days until this gets cured. But yeah, y'all tie-dyed shirts and yoga, y'all ain't getting me in on that. No way, sir. Bob, not happening. Not happening. But
Uh,
well, see, Victor, my back doesn't bother me. That's what kills me. Everybody's like, "Oh, sorry about your back." My back doesn't hurt. Like right now, my back is great. I can twist, I can turn, but every time I twist and turn, my leg feels like it's like stuck between a tractor and a boulder. I mean, it hurts. So that's my problem. It's not my back. It's my leg. The whole. But anyway, enough about that. I feel like an old person sitting around talking about my ache. We'll start comparing medicines here in a minute. I ain't that old yet.
uh,
Chris, I'm glad you like the shirt, man. Klein talked me into it. I wasn't gonna put it on, but he was like, "Dude, you got to." He's like, "You got it. You got to at least let them see it." So, yeah, Mark, that's what I've had that conversation too. I know why they do it now, but I'm gonna keep trying to push through this. So, what's going on at your place, Steve? That's enough about me getting old. Y'all are making me feel even worse.
yeah, well,
You are OD.
um,
Uh,
so besides, well, let me grab something real quick. A visual aid, I could say,
oh.
if I can reach it without hurting my back as an old person vicariously living through you.
See ya,
So
Jack.
this has come to my shop. There we go.
Ah, look at you.
So I'm finally going to join the ranks of an extended diode laser here shortly,
It's
and
about time.
I know. So I hope to get that built. The nice thing is it's also going to go on the, let's see, it's the IKEA K1 Pro Max. So that's the one that is switches between 48 and 24 watt power. So they have 8 diodes in there, and you can flip a switch and it turns 4 of them off.
Did you say 48?
Yeah, 4 followed by an 8.
That is
So
ridiculous.
So we'll have some information on that coming soon. I'm going to be looking at the laser first, and then we'll throw these on there. And then, of course, that's going to mean I have to build my own enclosure Zilla with my own flavor and spin on it. So I got a lot of work to do, and yeah, hopefully everything's in here to get mine done.
See, if I had my button, I would hit it right now, but I don't got it. Y'all lucky. Old dog. Yeah,
So
I guess I've made it.
yeah, and Chris, sorry, this isn't this isn't meant to poke at you for the trouble you're having, but yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully you do
Chris.
get your parts eventually and not shipped to some guy on the west coast of the United States. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm excited to get this going because this is actually going to help me with my other hobby with the RC airplanes. Is I'll have to. This is actually going to have a longer bed than my 60 watt CO2 by a few inches, so that'll help me
yeah, that'll be cool.
cut some longer things.
Which particular machine you're talking about there, Carl? I've had a Niji 3 Max 10 watt, and I've had the little 3-legged Niji. I don't remember which one that was, but it wasn't nothing too impressive. Small work area. But and I got an email about the 4, but I haven't heard anything back from that. But DG makes some good machines. The one that I have, that 3 Max, it's more of a tinker machine though. If you don't like playing with it and modifying things, it could be a little challenging to you.
Yeah,
Starting to get
I
late.
haven't had a chance to play with any Niji lasers, but from what I've seen, they're really cool if you like tinker because I think they give you a lot more flexibility and options in how you do things. And some of them I even think had a variable focus, like you could adjust um,
Yes.
the height on that focus, which could in some cases give you maybe a um, little more depth in your Z, some space there. But yeah, it'd be interesting to play with them. But like I said, from what I've seen, they're a tinkerer's paradise. So,
Yeah, I think the 4. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've got the 3, and from looking at the 4 on some of the advertisements I've seen, it looks like they're going a little more towards you know, end user ready. Because the 3, it was very flimsy without some kind of substructure to hold it together and everything. It worked great, but it required you to either make your own substructure out of a piece of MDF or something like that to get it some rigidity. Well, Brian, I've been up, and you got to understand, I'm not sleeping the best in the world right now. So, and I've had a little bit of apple cider, so it takes about 2 to help make me sleepy.
So, Mark, I know. So, like this IKEA one, that's got autofocus on it and has these extended rails. I haven't heard on Acer's if they are offering the extended rails yet, but that does have autofocus. Some of the Niji, so like the Niji 4, that has the autofocus, and that's more of a wider one. And don't they have extensions that you can make this like almost a
That
meter
Niji?
square? Yeah,
Yes, it has. You got me like a 3 foot by 3 foot or something like that.
yeah. It's a
I
pretty.
can tell you because I had this conversation with Acer last week. Currently, there is not an extension for the L2 series machines. They are working on it, but could not give me a tentative date of when they would be released. Because I had that conversation with them about changing my machine from the P20 to the V35, and they were like, "Well, wouldn't you rather have a L2 35 watt?" And I'm like, "Well, can I extend it?" And they're like, "Well, not right now." And I'm like, "Well, then no, I need the extended machine." Because that's what I use that for my stove covers, and I've got to have an extended machine to do it. So,
Which is really interesting because the IKEA and the IKEA K1 and the Acer L2, so close. I mean, if they're not made in the same spot,
and that was
I
what
don't
I
know.
almost wanted to ask them that. I was thinking that maybe my buddy who has a L2 and also has the IKEA extensions could look into that and see how compatible they are. So you never know.
Yeah, they are so similar that I cannot believe that Acer doesn't have them since IKEA does. So
Brian, it might be. It might be. I can't say for sure because you don't like that, but it might be. I do have a Sculpt Fun S30 that I haven't put together yet that I'm gonna be playing with. Uh, but I think you've already got one of those, don't you?
well, you've got what was it? So I've got the Sculpt Fun S30 Pro, but mine is the typical 400-ish by 400. Now yours isn't it like 600 by 600? You
I
get the
haven't
bigger
even taken it out of the
frame.
box. I haven't
Yeah,
taken
I
it out of the
think
box yet, so I'm not sure.
I think that may be the one that they sent you. But yours is what, a 24-watt version in
Yeah, it's
that
only
larger
20 something.
format.
I thought the designation X30 meant it was going to be a 30 watt, but when I looked at the module, it's a 20-watt module that's in the box.
Yeah, no,
So,
they've got their series, and they've got I think 10, like a 12, 24, and a 30 some watt in that. But yeah, I think yours is a little bit larger than the one I have. So
well, that'd be great if it is. Yeah, Mark, the Niji 3 Max is what I've got, and that's where I got the relay that I use for my air assist is because the Niji 3, it does come with the M8 relay for automatic air assist. The one that I got did anyway. And that relay is pretty handy. And the machine itself does a good job. But if you're going to get one of the Niji 3 Max is what I have. And I did a video on it, but the only thing I will say is if you're planning on building an enclosure, putting it in the enclosure, bolting it together, running your wires, using some wire retention clips or something to put all your wires where you need them. All that. If you're planning on doing that with the machine, it worked great. If you're one of these people that only uses a laser occasionally and you just want one that you can like put on your table, engrave something, and then pick it up and go put it in the closet, that's not the machine for you because you can't. You're not going to get the results out of it you're going to want without doing a little bit of tweaking to it because the cable management is not that great. The gantry was pretty good. It does have chains on the gantry, but the way it's put together, you almost have to build it into an enclosure to really make it, in my opinion, a clean machine to use. Klein used it for a while after I got through playing with it, and it cuts good. The modules are powerful to be as small as they are, but like I said, it's not very rigid unless you build it into an enclosure or built some type of support structure for it. And it is a big machine too, so if you're just wanting to do small stuff and put it up, a lot more storage area to put it up, because the one I've got is it's like 17 by 20 something. It's a pretty good sized work area. But I took and screwed mine into my enclosure and it worked fine.
So did you hear Glowforge is making a diode?
Why would they start with a 6 watt?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Glowforge that.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying that in today's diode game, I mean, you would think they would come out with at least a 10 right now. But no, I haven't seen that yet. I actually saw a commercial where they said they were fixing to make a diode. And who else was it? Ohmtech. Did Ohmtech just drop a diode?
I did see that Ohmtech has been teasing that they have a diode coming out. I think it's a 10 watt. I'd have to go back and look. I'm interested in that just because they've done so many more things with CO2s, and kind of curious if they've if they're just importing and rebranding something else, or if they've brought up something new. As far as the Glowforge, I've followed them since their Kickstarter, but was kind of turned off early on just due to the price and the cloud nature of it. I don't know if this Aura uses the kind of the same cloud-based software. That's kind of a turnoff to me. And yeah, they're being Glowforge. I'm sure they're going to want a premium for it. But I'm sure they've got some reasoning for it. But I don't know. It'd be interesting to see more about it. Maybe they've made a better diode laser.
I mean, I guess there's possible.
Yeah, I mean I'll give it to them. They made CO2 lasers. They kind of made the Apple of CO2 lasers back in the day. Now, of course, a lot of companies, especially Xtool, have taken them on with their own. Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't count them out, but just their history of kind of being a premium for it is something I would be.
Well, one thing that I mean, technically that I could see that they might be trying to do is maybe this is something that you're supposed to add to your workflow. Maybe it ties in with the Glowforge or something, or does some kind of. There's no telling. There's probably a spin on it somewhere. Woo! Glowforge are $11.99 for a 6 watt. No, yeah, they're probably going for their customer base that they already have. But anyway, I mean.
Well, okay,
I'd give it a try, but
I brought up the page on it. It is kind of in an enclosure. It's got a camera built into it. So I mean, there's some justification to that cost, and it is 22-inch by 20-inch cutting area. So that But yeah, I would have made it a 10 watt at least.
Yeah, I've never used Ohmtech spray, so that's simple. I couldn't tell you if there's any difference or not.
Ron, depending on the machine, yeah, the controllers, at least the Ruida controllers, have both a machine on time as well as what they call a lamp hours. So that would be the amount of time the laser has actually been fired. So that's built into the controller of my laser. It's completely separate from the software, and I can go in and read that. And if I was ever to swap the laser tube, I could reset it as well. So they at least mine does, and most of the higher end ones do. Your K40s probably do not with the GRBL controllers and such, but you get into that Ruida controller and up, you should have that on there.
Yeah, I don't think mine has that. It might, but I haven't ever looked for it. Yeah, like Brian said, maybe they're trying to, because maybe they're trying to get a machine that they can do like photorealistic stuff with, and so they went with a 5 watt. Because the one thing thing about it is what?
Oh, I said the overall dimensions of the machine are 20 by 22, but the working area is only 12 by 12. So
12 by 12.
yeah,
Okay. Let's see how many people buy those. There's got to be more to it for that kind of price tag. Ooh. Seems expensive for 6 watt with 12 by 12. Yeah. If it's a 6 watt with a 12 by 12 work area, save yourself a lot of trouble and just go buy 2 trees I mean, you could buy 2 or 3 2 trees for that. And no.
yep. So
They're
Carl's
trying to go after their established customers or something.
Carl's playing around with painter's canvas, engraving on it without any paint or powder. And yeah, you can do different things with canvas. You can just engrave on them straight and kind of get your different tones of kind of, that usually comes out of like a brown tone, and get some shading that way. Or I've played around with this a couple times, and maybe I should jump back to it. But you can actually layer up paint, so you'll do your kind of base coat, and generally you want to go from light to dark, from what I've seen, and then you adjust your power to reveal those various colors throughout it. So you can do some pretty interesting effects doing that, and then engraving away the layers of the paint. Like I said, I've played with it, haven't really mastered it by any means, but some fun things to do. You can do a similar thing on white tile, painting them different colors, and then blasting away the paint in different power levels to get it different colors.
Yep. Usually with those, if you're going to do that, you start with a dark color on the outside, and so you have to kind of go in and invert your image so that it reveals the whites instead of revealing the darks. That's the only thing that I will offer you, because I have played around with. The most I've been able to pull off was a 3-color canvas. I did black, red, and yellow, and did a bee on it, and it actually turned out pretty decent until right at the end, where I had messed up my layers of paint, and it just like burned a hole through my canvas because I didn't have as much paint there as I had in other places. But yeah, it's tricky. You got to find that perfect setting. But it's pretty neat, because like I did a bee, and it was black, but then parts of it was red, parts of it was yellow, and it's neat. But it's one of those situations too, to where you may want to play with your focus, because I have found that it's really easy to knock a hole through that canvas, especially if you're perfectly focused.
Well, and I even switched to getting the hardboard canvas ones instead of the stretched canvas,
Yeah.
to help prevent that.
Yeah, I think I still got a pack of those that I haven't burned up yet. So get bored, might want to try one. Yeah, Daniel, the Glowforge does kind of seem like what Steve said, because back in the day when Apple first came out with the iPhone, nobody wanted them because, well, the gadget people didn't want them because you couldn't jailbreak them, you couldn't put different apps on them, you couldn't build your own apps and use it. Everybody wanted to stick with Google because you could jailbreak them, you could build your own apps, you could do the Google developer thing, and I think that is kind of the same mindset that Glowforge kind of leans towards. But I've got friends of mine that they do laser engraving businesses with a Glowforge. Now they will tell you that the material is expensive, service is expensive, everything about them is expensive, but they seem to enjoy it. Now I also think that if you have the right knowledge, you can get the same results for a lot less money and be able to have a better profit margin. But it would require a little more hands-on and working knowledge of the machines. Yeah, yeah, and that's what it gets down to, is you put the material inside the laser, and the laser actually reads the QR code, knows what the material is, it sets the settings automatically. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like fire and forget type technology. Steve would go crazy because he couldn't tweak it and test this and test that. It would drive Steve crazy if he had to if the machine would only let him run one power setting. But anyway, hour 59 minutes and 18 seconds. So, guys, I really hate to run off, but I got to go walk around for a little bit to get my bag out of the position it's in. But if y'all hadn't already, go check out Steve's channel, my channel, whichever one you haven't. Hit those thumbs up. Remember, Steve's got his event coming up. What's it called? Woodworkers.
The Minnesota Woodworker Expo.
Guild.
Yeah.
And go check that out. And also, September the 9th, we'll have the thing at Pedals from the Past in Jemison that I'll be at. And my friend May, which she dropped in here earlier. Some of y'all might have seen her. She'll also be there. So hopefully it'll be it's coming up in the future if you're in my area or Steve's area. I would love to go hang out and see Steve at this event, but man, that's a long ride. And I'm not up to long rides right now. So
you got a couple months.
Well, I'm hoping I get this straightened out. But thanks for coming, guys. Like I said, I apologize for my current state of painfulness. Nobody hates it worse than I do, I promise. But hopefully I'll be back in the shack pretty soon, and you don't have to stare at my little, make-believe background. But anyway, y'all have a good one. I am fixing to go for a walk, stretch my legs, Steve.
All right, yeah. Well, we won't keep Clack here any longer than he used to. But thanks again, guys, for hanging out this week, and stay tuned to our channels for more content. Otherwise, we will see you again this time next Sunday.
See you guys. Be safe.